Hello and back to the Left from the Past. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm at the new Echota historic site, which was originally a Cherokee nation. And before I actually get into this video, I just want to say that whenever I was editing, I seen that the audio in most of the clips was corrupt. So in many of the clips, there will not be audio, but I will be talking and telling you all the history of New Echota. This first location is what a middle-class Cherokee family's farmstead would have looked like. And as you just seen on the sign, it's equipped with a barn, corn crib, smokehouse, and the family house. And the first building that you see right here is the barn. It's equipped with 2 stables and a wagon. And this sign reads, some Cherokee farms had barns and stables. The drive-through design of this one provided a protected place for farm equipment and animals. Milk cows and draft animals were kept in stalls part of the time, so they'd be close at hand when needed. And beef cattle and hogs were allowed to roam freely, so each garden and cornfield in the Cherokee Nation had to be fenced. And this building is the corn crib, which was the most common outbuildings in Cherokee farmsteads. And this sign reads, corn cribs were the most common outbuildings in the Cherokee Nation. Almost every Cherokee family farm included 1 or more cribs. Corn was hauled in from the field and stored in the crib. Still on the cob and in the shuck, it would be air dry sufficiently to be ground into meal, made into hominy, or fed to livestock. Some cribs, like this one, had plunder sheds to protect tools and wagons from weather. And this crib includes its original puncheon floor. Puncheon's logs split lengthwise to present a plank-like surface. And by the early 1800s, most Cherokee homes had puncheon floors. And this building is a smokehouse, which was used to cook and preserve meat. And the sign reads, pork was the most common meat eaten in the Cherokee Nation during the early 1800s. Fresh beef, chicken, bear, deer, and turkey were also eaten, but it was difficult to preserve for months at a time. Pork was dressed into ham, bacon, sausage, and many other things and kept in the smokehouse. It could be smoked over a slow fire or cured with sea salt or other spices to preserve it. And this smokehouse includes its original meat cutting board. And this building is the main house to a middle-class Cherokee family. And the sign reads, "This house is typical of what a middle-class Cherokee family of the early 1800s would have lived in." Furnishings in Cherokee homes varied greatly depending on the wealth of the family. Many of the furnishings were identical to those that white families used, but looked for some unique Cherokee features such as the river cane blowgun over the door, the ball stick used to play anista, and the mortar and pestle used to grind corn. Traditional crafts such as basket weaving, pottery making, and finger weaving were still in wide use. So Cherokee homes usually had a variety of handmade items along with other items purchased at local stores. As you can see, the bed's box springs, which is what we would call them now, is made out of rope. And I'm sure most of y'all know, but after a while, rope loses tension. And that tool right there in front of the bed is known as a bed key, which is what they use to tighten the ropes on the bed. And I heard that if you had a guest in your home that overstayed their welcome, a way to tell them to leave without really saying it is by not tightening their ropes, so they eventually would fall to the ground, which would basically indicate for them to leave. And I thought that was a very interesting story whenever I learned it, so I decided to share it with you guys. But now I'm going to head over to the council house. And this is the town street. And the sign says, in November 1825, the Cherokee Council passed a resolution naming New Echota the national capital of the Cherokee Nation. In February 1826, Cherokee surveyors divided their new capital into a series of streets and 101-acre lots. And this is one of the streets where I'm standing. And right here at this location is the town center. In 1830, a town consisting of about 10 dwelling houses, 4 stores, 3 government buildings, and 25 outbuildings would have been visible from this location. And following the Trail of Tears, all the buildings of New Echota, except the Worcester house, fell into ruin. And this building is a reconstruction of the 1822 Council House, which served as the Cherokee Nation's main legislative building. The 32-member National Council met on one floor, and the Council House and the 12-member National Committee on the other. Bills had to pass both houses to become laws. And this is actually one of the buildings that you can go into. And these are council members: George Lowry, John Ross, and Major Ridge. And these would have been the council members. So this is like where the council members would sit and address. So I guess as a council member, subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a lot. But now I'm going to go upstairs, which is basically a copy and paste version of the bottom floor. And these are more council members: Joseph Vann, a committee member from 1828 to 1836. John Ridge, clerk of the council, 1829, and president of the committee. And this is David Vann. And there's a beautiful view from the second floor. I went ahead and joined the second council as well. And I just want to say, if you like this hat that I'm wearing right now, click the link in the description and go check it out for yourself. And now we're going to head over to the Supreme Courthouse. And this is the Newtown Road, which was the main north-south thoroughfare in New Echota. And this is the Supreme Courthouse. This building is the reconstruction of the 1829 Supreme Courthouse. The first floor served as the courtroom, and the Cherokee Supreme Court met annually to hear cases appealed from lower district courts and heard 246 cases from 1823 to 1835. So this is where court cases would take place. Most cases that went on here were civil, such as disputes over debts. And criminal cases also went on here, but most of them were settled in lower courts. And when the building was not in session for court cases, it was used as church and school. A few months ago, I actually got the chance to play a court case, and I stood right here at this podium and played a case. I believe the case was against somebody stole my cow, so I was basically pleading on why he should get prison time, and I just thought it was a very cool experience to witness. But now we're going to head up to the second floor. So up here is just benches, as well as a nice view outside. But now we're going to go ahead and head over to the print shop. In 1826, the Cherokee government decided to print a national newspaper, and in 1827, construction began on a printing office similar to this reconstruction. The Cherokee Phoenix was a 4-page weekly paper that was printed in both Cherokee and English that circulated through the Cherokee Nation, parts of the United States, and Europe. February 21st, 1828 is when the first edition of the Cherokee Phoenix was printed, and the paper was in print until 1834 when it was discontinued due to lack of funds. The press was seized by the Georgia militia and pro-treaty member Stand Watie during the terminal leading up to the signing of the Treaty of New Echota in 1835. And the sign says, "This building is a reconstruction of the original Cherokee printing office built on or near the site in 1827. The world's first Indian language newspaper, the Cherokee Phoenix, was printed at New Echota from 1828 to 1834. Thousands of pages of the newspaper and books also were translated into Cherokee and printed at New Echota. This printing press is the 1870 press similar to the original Cherokee press. During archaeological excavations in 1954, over 1,500 pieces of lead printing type were uncovered at New Echota. And I actually got the chance to print my own newspapers from this printing press that you're looking at right now, and I'll go ahead and show the pictures of what they look like. The ink has faded over time, so it's a little bit hard to see, but if you ever get the chance to print your own Cherokee newspaper, I highly recommend it. And this is Town Street. And this right here is Town Street Road. But now I'm heading over to the Vann Tavern, which is the building right in front of me. Cherokees adopted stores, blacksmith shops, ferries, and taverns, and one such tavern was Vann's Tavern. It was built in about 1805 by James Vann, and it was originally located in Forsyth County, where the federal road crossed the Chattahoochee River. This such tavern carried food, drinks, and supplies, as well as rooms upstairs that travelers could stay in. The tavern also had a drive-through window located in the back that travelers in a buggy or horse could go to get supplies without stopping their journey on the road. With a day's travel only being around 30 miles in this time, the drive-through window was a helpful aspect of the tavern so travelers could spare their miles before sunset. In 1955, the tavern building was relocated to New Echota. A well stands in the back of the tavern, which was included in a Cherokee home or store that stood on this location in the 1930s before the relocation of the tavern. And as you can see, the tavern has a table where people can sit down and eat, as well as a fireplace that would keep the place warm in the winter. It also has shelves on the wall that kind of shows products that they would have had in this time. As well as a menu of what you could buy. And this right here is the drive-through window that travelers could go to get supplies while on the road. And this is the well that was included in a Cherokee home or store in the 1930s. That's a real squirrel, guys. And now I'm heading over to a common Cherokee farmstead. And this sign says, John Rogers and his family lived on this location in the early 1830s. Rogers was a white man with a Cherokee wife, and he was listed as poor in the 1831 survey of white men living in the Cherokee Nation. But now I'm going to go in the reconstruction of John Rogers' house. John and his wife slept on the bed, but their children would have slept on the loft. And this is where the children would have to sleep. Outbuildings like these were common on Cherokee farmsteads, and it was used as a corn crib or potato house. And this is a stable which was used for horses and cattle. And the sign says this stable is different from the other log buildings that you have seen today. It is constructed of round logs rather than hewn logs. Round logs were actually used more often than hewn logs by the Cherokees. Round logs came from younger trees than hewn logs, which were usually made from the heartwood of very old trees. And most of the log structures in Georgia that have survived from the early 1800s are built of hewn logs. And now I'm heading to the Worcester house. I know I probably said that name wrong, but it's okay. And I know in the beginning of the video I said that every house and building here is a reconstruction. I was actually wrong about that. The Worcester house is the only original building here. It was built in 1828 by Reverend Samuel A. Worcester. And every other building here is a reconstruction, but this one is the only original building here. In 1827, a young Congregational missionary from New England, Samuel A. Worcester, his wife and young daughter arrived at New Echota and began construction of a mission station. Worcester built most of the two-story building himself. Along with his home being a mission, it was also the New Echota post office because Worcester was a New Echota postmaster. But one of Worcester's most important works was his assistance toward the creation of the Cherokee newspaper, which was the Cherokee Phoenix print shop. And like I mentioned before, the Worcester house is the only original building to survive at New Echota. And in 1831, Worcester was arrested and sentenced to prison by the state of Georgia for his refusal to obtain a permit for the state to reside in the Cherokee Nation. His case was appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court in the Worcester v. Georgia. And although he won, Georgia ignored the ruling, and Worcester was forced out of his home after a Georgia resident gained title to it in the 1832 land lottery. And Worcester moved west to continue working with the Cherokee. But this is the inside of the Worcester home, and it is absolutely beautiful. The Worcester house has several New England features, such as the central fireplace. This room served as the kitchen. The bake oven beside the fireplace was heated by letting a fire burn in it for several hours. When the oven was hot, the ashes and coals were quickly removed, the oven swept clean, and the food placed inside. Speed was important because the baking was done on retained heat. And at least one day a week was devoted to baking. And this sign reads, Reverend Worcester and his family lived on the first floor. This room served as a living and dining room and was a favorite gathering place for Cherokee visitors. The room to the rear is a bedroom, and Worcester was innovative and built 3 closets into the house. Closets are rare in 19th century homes. Now we're going to go ahead and head up these stairs. And as the sign right down there that I just showed said, the Worcester family lived on the first floor. So this room right here and these 2 beds would have actually been used for guests and people that just came to stay in the Worcester family house. And as you can see right there, there is a bed key, because like the box springs that we would use today was made out of rope, like I said before. And like I was mentioning at the family farm at the beginning of the video, if guests overdone their stay and the people that was hosting them really wanted them to leave. They would not turn their bed, and eventually let the ropes just fall to the floor where they would not have a bed to sleep on technically. And that's what the guests knew, that they really needed to leave, which I think is just an awesome thing in history and something that you're really not taught in school, which I think you need to be taught that in school because it's just interesting to hear. And this sign says the 4 second-floor rooms were used by visitors passing through New Echota and for several people who boarded with Worcester. The outside stairway provided private access to these rooms, and the inside stairway was added after Worcester left New Echota. And notice the spinning wheel and loom in the rear bedroom. By the 1820s, almost every Cherokee family included at least one spinner or weaver. In 1828, there were 2,428 spinning wheels and 769 looms in use by the Cherokees. And this right here would have been the cellar that they went down into and stored things. It also could have been technically used as a storm cellar where they would have got down in case like tornadoes came through. But normally it would have been used for storing things. And then right here they have a well right in the back of their house. Well, I thought you would be able to see. And this is how they would turn it. They would just lower it right back down. And this right here would have been a smokehouse for curing meat, cooking meat, as well as storing it. And this sign says Samuel Worcester constructed several outbuildings behind his home. They included a stable, smokehouse, book office, corn crib, outhouse, and a brick ash house. No archaeological work has yet taken place to determine where they once stood. All of Worcester's outbuildings were destroyed sometime before 1952, and this building is a reconstruction of his smokehouse. So this is the only original building and house here at New Echota. And now I'm heading to the Boudinot house site. In 1827, a young Cherokee named Elias Boudinot constructed a large 2-story frame house on this site. The 4 stones mark the approximate locations of the corners of the house, and the well located here is original. And the square area enclosed by rocks was once the kitchen and cellar shop. And Elias Boudinot was the first editor of the Cherokee Phoenix newspaper. And on December 29, 1835, 20 Allied Cherokee, including Boudinot, signed the Treaty of New Echota with the U.S. government and the Boudinot House. And following relocation to Indian Territory out west, a group of Cherokees who opposed the treaty murdered Boudinot, Major Ridge, and John Ridge, who were principal leaders of the pro-treaty party. And these are the 4 stones that mark the approximate locations of the corners of the house. And like I mentioned before, the well is original. And this is a site where the original kitchen and cellar would have been at. And this is a little map showing what Boudinot's farmstead would have looked like. And in many Cherokee farmsteads, they would have had gardens and fruit trees of this sort for a source of fresh vegetables and fruit to eat. And this sign says, a favorite sport of the Cherokee was a game called Anetza. The objective was to score by throwing a small ball through a goal at the end of a large playing field. The first team to score 12 times was the winner. Many ball games were played at New Echota during the 1820s and 1830s, but the exact site of the New Echota ball field is not known. But now I'm going to head inside it and show y'all the museum. And while I'm touring the museum, I'm going to tell y'all a little bit more history of New Echota and the Cherokees. The Cherokees adopted much of the white culture, becoming the most progressive of all American Indian tribes. The Cherokees learned English and attended schools, as well as adopting a new way to dress, with many Cherokee men becoming farmers, politicians, and businessmen. Cherokees used tools such as the plow, saw, axe, froe, and adze. Cotton and sheep produced the raw material for which Cherokee women spun yarn for their looms. And metal tableware and European ceramics were on many Cherokee dinner tables. An average Cherokee lived in a small log cabin on his own farmstead, usually around 11 acres, and corn was the stapled crop on Cherokee farms, but most Cherokees raised a variety of vegetables. In 1821, the Cherokee government adopted a written form of the Cherokee language. It was developed by an uneducated Cherokee who could not read, write, or speak English, named Sequoyah. But Sequoyah realized the value and importance of a written language. For 12 years, Sequoyah labored to bring the language to his people, and he finally isolated the 86 different sounds in the Cherokee language and gave each of them a symbol, making the Cherokees the first American tribe to have a written language. But that was all of the extra history that I have for you guys, so enjoy the rest of the New Echota Museum.
Tree. Sukai.
And now we're heading to the new Echota Cemetery. And now we made it to the cemetery. And it seems like we have to go up this little trail to the cemetery. So the cemetery itself is not on the actual like New Echota Cherokee Nation where we just was, showing all the buildings. It's actually a few miles up the road. So we're gonna go ahead and hike up to it and I'll show y'all what it is. And here it is right here. Colonel Pathkiller, Morgan's Cherokee Regiment, War of 1812, 1742 to 1827. Jerusha, Worcester, February 27th, 1831 to August 14th, 1831. So he was just a baby. In memory of Harriet Ruggles, wife of Mr. Elias Boudinot. August 15th, 1836, age 31. Okay, this will be all for today, guys. I hope you did enjoy that video. If you did, make sure to leave a like on it and also subscribe down below if you haven't already, because it's free and it helps me out a whole lot. So definitely do that if you haven't already. I thought the cemetery was pretty freaking cool. It's hidden in the woods, as you can see, and it's just not something that you would come across if you was just driving down the road. You would really have to be searching for it. So I thought that was a cool little aspect of New Echota. I hope you enjoyed everything that I was able to show from New Echota, from the tavern, the print shop, council house, Supreme Court, as well as the Worcester house, even the Boudinot house. I really hope y'all enjoyed everything, as well as the museum I was able to show. I know it was a pretty long video, but I had a whole lot of fun filming it, so I hope y'all enjoyed it as well. If y'all want to see more things about Indians, Cherokee Indians, and other things like that, then definitely leave that in the comments below and let me know, because I have a whole lot more things like this that I want to show y'all guys. So leave it in the comments below if you want to see more videos like this. But I have a whole lot more content coming for you guys. So with all that said, thank y'all so much for watching. Oh, before I end the video, if you want to get this hat or any other merch that I sell, click the link in the description and it should be somewhere on screen as well. But with all that said, thank y'all so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.